To say that it's been a minute since I've posted would be an understatement, to say the least. And if I'm being completely honest, the last year of my life has been a bit of a whirlwind, but I'm finally sitting down to catch you guys up on everything that's happened, so let's get into it. As some of you may know, the last several years of my life were dedicated to vet school and pursuing my dream of becoming a doctor of veterinary medicine. The last step of this undertaking started on May 9th, 2022, when my classmates and I began the year-long journey known as clinical rotations. This was something that we'd spent the last 3 years or so preparing for, with 8-hour-long lecture days, skills labs, and weekly, sometimes bi-weekly, exams. It was something to look forward to, but also something that was a bit nerve-wracking, at least for me, though I'm sure a lot of my peers can relate. The question of whether I was truly good enough to be here was something that I thought about frequently. Despite my fears, I went into every rotation knowing that I would give it my all, and ultimately, I succeeded. That's not to say that there weren't times that I felt stress, anxiety, doubt. No, I experienced these emotions often. Truthfully, I think I cried more in my last year of vet school than I ever had before, though on some rotations more than others. There were a lot of late nights, early mornings, and just extremely hectic days. However, there was also a lot of good between the stress as well. I can't emphasize enough just how much I learned in that last year. There's no better way to truly learn something than to experience it firsthand. On top of that, I grew so much closer to so many of my classmates, some of whom I'd never spoken to before. There's something about being in the crucible that is orthopedic surgery that causes you to bond with people who may have been practically strangers before. And let's not forget to mention what it's like to be grilled during internal medicine rounds in front of your peers, residents, and board-certified clinicians bright and early in the morning. But perhaps most importantly, fourth year helped me understand what it truly means to be a doctor, what advocating for your patient looks like, what spectrum of care really means, and so much more. In between the chaos of rotations, I also took my NAVLE, aka the North American Veterinary Licensing Exam, and I passed. During that time, I also took a week away from the teaching hospital to do an externship at a local clinic, which really just brought into perspective exactly what I was striving towards. And then, in the blink of an eye, fourth year was over, graduation came and went, and it was time to say goodbye to all of the friends I'd made and move on to the next place in my journey, specifically Kansas City, also known as home. My partner and I made the move with our 2 pups in tow, of course, and we hardly had the chance to settle into our new home before we started on our next journey. This time across the pond to London for a post-grad trip. As it turns out, this wasn't just time for some R&R, but it was also where we got engaged. Since then, we've experienced so many more adventures and events, including birthdays, starting my first job as a fully licensed veterinarian, a trip to Denmark with one of my best friends and her fiancé, and Disneyland with my family, to name a few. That pretty much brings us to the now, where Daniel and I are starting to plan our wedding. So stay tuned for even more adventures, and thanks for tagging along. Bye!